All right, so we're going to take out this wheel today and test it out. If you watched my last video, you know I just rebuilt this whole wheel because I screwed up the spoke lacing. I had the spokes in the wrong hole. These are drilled in a certain way that are angled. It's like an angled drilling, and you have to make sure that when you lace your spokes that the angle of the drilling matches the angle of the spoke, and that basically just means that the angle of the spoke has to go to the correct side of the hub. I had it backwards. I have since fixed it, and now you can see that the spoke nipples angle with the spokes correctly. Now, if we compare that to the front wheel, which has not been fixed yet, you will see the difference, and you should hopefully see, if I shove the camera in here, you will see that the spokes, for example, that spoke is on a angle that is not in line with the spoke. So this wheel is what it looked like before I fixed it. And let me see if I can get a better shot. So you can kind of see how the spoke nipple is really on the wrong angle, and it's causing the spoke even in some cases to bend. And what happened was I assumed that this spoke hole was drilled to the drive side, but in fact it was actually needed to go to the non-drive side. So I have since relaced this wheel. I have trued it up as good as I would like to for now, and I want to go out and test ride it. And as you can see, the main thing I look at when I trued this up is I wanted the wheel to be round. And round means that the wheel is not hopping up and down. So here's kind of how it looks right now after my wheel truing by hand without a tension. I don't have a tensiometer, but if you look at that black line right here, if you pay attention to that black line, that's sort of the top of the rim. If you look at some of the silver stuff, you'll see some markings from the brakes, so that'll throw it off a little bit. But if you look at the black line, you can see how fairly good the vertical is. As far as lateral true, it's pretty good. I didn't go any further than I did in the last video, and that's because I just want to go out and ride it and just see how it feels and make sure everything's good. So the bike I'm riding today is this Fit Cycles custom steel bike, and I did a whole video series about this bike going from the frame design all the way through complete build. And I did a update video at some point in the past. I think I did a 16,000 mile update, and now I'm at about 21,000 miles on this bike today. It's May 12th or something, May 10th, 2022. When I started the design and the frame construction, it was 2018, and I had it finished. The frame builder, John Fitzgerald, finished this in December of 2018. He finished the frame. I picked up the frame and started assembling it in early 2019. I finally got it on the road sometime in March, I believe, or April of 2019. And this bike was a little different than the bike I was using before. The bike I had before was a what this bike really replaced was my Specialized Expedition touring bike, which was a 700C version of this. The frame geometry was very similar. This has a low trail fork. The Specialized Expedition had a mid trail fork. The Expedition was a 700C. This is a 650B. But the size of the frame was really close. I actually went a little larger on this one. I went with a 58 center to center seat tube, and then a 56.5 center to center top tube. The Specialized Expedition was 56 centimeters center to center and 55 center to center on the top tube. So it was a little smaller, and I'm a little bit taller. I'm actually 6 feet tall, so it was a smaller frame. It seemed to fit okay, but I wanted a frame that filled out a little bit more space. Anyway, that aside, the other things that were different about this, the Specialized Expedition was also standard diameter tubing, which is a 28.6 down tube and a 25.4 top tube. But the difference was that the Expedition was built for touring, and so the thickness of the tubing, or the budding profile, was thicker. There was a gentleman who rides with the San Francisco Randonneurs who used some sort of I think it's like an ultrasonic tester that checked the thickness of my Expedition, and he posted that up on his Google pages or whatever it's called, I'm not sure. And he went through and measured the different profiles, and I think the top tube on that bike was a 1.0 or 1.2. It was pretty thick, 1.2 at the ends, and then it was like 0.9 in the middle, and then 1.2. I think that's what it was, but anyhow, it was really thick. This one is 0.7, 0.5, 0.7 on the top tube, and the down tube is 0.8, 0.5, 0.8. So this frame is very flexible, and that might have actually been one of the things I would change if I were to go back and do this over again. I would consider an oversized down tube. I would probably keep it thin. I would probably go with the 858 down tube, oversize the down tube, and possibly oversize the top tube with a 757. Just because a bike like this, for me, a little extra weight probably wouldn't make much of a difference, but to be able to carry a little bit more load on this bike would be nice, since it was really kind of modeled after that Specialized Expedition. And then really the only way now I can actually bike tour on this is to go with the front load bias, which is okay, but sometimes you want to load up the back with one of the heavier bike packing bags. The other thing I would probably consider changing now that I've had this bike is I would probably get a little longer trail. This really low trail is a bit, especially with the flexible frame, it tends to be a bit sensitive to things, and on longer rides I find that after a while that does end up becoming more of a fatiguing factor. When you're constantly managing the bike, I feel like that's a detriment to longer rides. So I think oversizing the tubing or stiffening up the frame a little would probably solve that, and you could still do the low trail. But now that I've done the low trail, I would probably go for a little bit higher trail. I wouldn't go high trail, but I would probably stick to somewhere. I really like the mid 50s trail to the low 60s. I think that feels really, to me, the most intuitive. It gives you kind of the best of both worlds. You have good responsive handling, but you don't have such twitchy handling that you have to manage it, and it's hard to say. I mean, it doesn't handle poorly. I feel like it might sound that way, but I'm not saying that. You do get used to the way it handles, but I ride other bikes that have different trails. Miss Cool's bike has a low 40s trail. This has low 30s. My new gravel bike has a mid 50s trail. My road bike has a 60, like dead on 60. My mountain bike has probably a little higher trail, maybe 65, 70. And of all those, I find that from 40 to 60, somewhere in that range, is generally pretty good. Now, the reason that these rando style or touring bikes have a higher trail, a higher fork offset or fork rake to create a lower trail, is because you'd like to have a little more clearance for fenders, so you don't have a lot of toe overlap when you have a big fender on here. That's one of the reasons. And then the other reason is that fork rake does give a little bit more give, like a little suspension almost on the front of the bike. But I still think you could achieve some of these things by lowering the fork rake, maybe changing the head tube angle slightly, and then giving up a little on the toe overlap. It's okay to have some toe overlap. Don't be afraid of toe overlap, folks. I know we emphasize it, but it's not something that's is detrimental, especially on a bike where you're doing mostly road riding. Toe overlap is maybe something that affects mountain bike riding the most, but for most, like for gravel riding or even even a lot of single track stuff. If there's not major switchbacks, a little bit of toe overlap isn't the end of the world. If you talk to experienced riders out there, they'll tell you that toe overlap is sometimes it's one of those things that's maybe overemphasized and not really necessary to worry about. So anyway, I'm going off on this today. I wanted to take all of you out, and we're gonna go ride some dirt or whatever I find with Miss Cools today, and just waiting for her to show up here, and we're gonna roll out and test out my wheel building skills here. Good morning, Miss Cools. How are you doing today, Miss Cools?
Pretty good. I don't know if I'm supposed to.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Let's do it.
I don't think it's a good idea.
Go for it. Worst case scenario, just rip it out. So how are you doing this morning?
Good. Okay, now what? Uh-oh. I'm gonna have to come back to that.
Okay.
Ah.
So far the wheel's rolling really smooth. Rolled nice and smooth on the pavement back there. Didn't feel any hopping or anything. Nothing wobbling. So, one thing I will say about the other wheel, even though the spokes were off in the drilling, I never actually needed to true up the wheel. So it held the true, even though the spokes were breaking. And actually somebody in the comments made a good point that now that those spokes have been bent, I guess, because of the spoke nipples, that they'll probably, there's a good chance some of them will continue to break over time, because they may have already been stressed beyond their yield point. So I could have a little bit of residual fatigue now in these spokes. So we'll see how it goes. If it turns out to be a problem, they start breaking, then I might just do a whole new set of spokes on here. But we'll give it a try. We'll see how it goes. So do you want to talk about your blog that you've been writing in, Miss Cools?
Oh, wow.
Uh-oh. You didn't want that much attention on it?
Oh, I don't mind, actually. I'm not good at promoting myself. So most people don't know about it.
Yeah.
Plus, the link in my Instagram page, I haven't figured out how to turn it into like a link that you can click on and takes you there. Right now, it's just like you click on it, it'll take you there immediately.
Uh-huh.
Right now, it's just like the link
doesn't work.
But you can't, you would have to copy and paste, I guess. And I think that extra step is a deterrent. People actually, clicking on it. So it doesn't get much visitation, but it's okay because I mostly do it just because I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Anyway. But it's just it's basically my little writing journal that I publish on medium.com, which I discovered existed. I didn't know existed until a few months ago, and seemed like an easy place to post stuff you write. So I started doing that. Wow, look at all those poppies. Oh my God, it looks like more from this side, from this angle. Oh my God. Wait, I was gonna come play chicken with you. Yeah. And back here, your wheel's looking really true.
Is it?
Yep.
Yeah, it feels like it. Felt good on the asphalt too when we were on the smooth highway.
Yeah, I see nary a wobble.
That's great.
Oh, your low trail's going out of control over there.
It's real twitchy today.
Poppies.
Look at these. Want to go for a ride through the poppies, people? How's this feel?
Right to the people poppies?
What's it like riding through the poppies? No poppies were harmed. I think I have a rock in my shoe. Well, that was a really nice gift of Ori from Lightwave to actually have a photo developed. This was my picture when I came in the last vlog actually. The last vlog I did where we were here.
Yeah.
He developed this photo for us. That was nice, or for me. That was really nice of him.
Yeah. He gave you a gift. It's not even your birthday.
It's not even my birthday.
No holiday happening or anything.
Yeah, well that's cool. So, right on. Well, Miss Cools, this was a fun ride today. Any final thoughts on our bike wheel build video series, and anything about this ride that you think we should share to the whole World Wide Web?
It was good. It was all good. It all worked good.
It all worked good?
Yeah.
All right, everyone. We're going to conclude this video here. And, oh, look who we have. Look who we have. We have a special guest. We have a special guest. So, one last little thing that I wanted to say today, since I talked a little bit about this bike, which was good because the bike now, as I said, has around 21, almost, will be pushing 22,000 miles soon. And today, on today's ride, we finally cracked the front fender mount up here at the rack. And full disclaimer, I have hit many sticks. I've had sticks shoot in here and catch the fender and bend them down, so I've had to bend them back and reshape them. But today, on the way back, I noticed the front fender up here started rattling, and I looked down and I thought, well, the bolt must be loose, but I do see a crack up here in the top of the fender. You can definitely hear it, that there's a crack all the way around this braison. And so that's that. So I'm gonna have to do what I did back here on the rear of the fender, where I did a reinforcement inside and glued it in with epoxy, and you can see there's a crack there, but that's holding well because it's all reinforced with a really thick piece of aluminum. And I'll have to do something on this one now. So anyway, hope you have a nice ride this weekend, and we'll see you in the next video.